In the headlines, no U.S. troops in the war zone. President Donald Trump rules out the possibility of deploying American troops to fight in Ukraine and claims the UK, France, and Germany want boots on the ground. In Warsaw, Poland's spokesman stresses that it has no intention of sending its troops there, calling such reports a disinformation. Brazil pushes back against foreign pressure. The country's Supreme Court declares U.S. sanctions on Justice Alexandre G. Moraes invalid, reinforcing that outside laws have no force inside Brazil. Putin's offer, an invitation for Trump. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov confirms President Vladimir Putin has invited Trump to Moscow and says the Kremlin is open to a future meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, although preparations will take time. Vice President Sara Duterte makes a bold statement on drugs. She says drug addicts are ugly and declares that she and the entire office of the Vice President are ready for drug testing anytime. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says ties with China are steadily improving. The remarks come after his meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in New Delhi, where both sides discuss border stability, trade, and resume direct flights. Paraguay's classrooms are empty as thousands of teachers launch a nationwide strike. They're demanding higher salaries, better working conditions, and a bigger slice of national budget for education. And Vice President Sara Duterte fires back at President Marcos Jr., slamming the timing of his flood control probe and demanding lawmakers, not just contractors, be held accountable. I'm Franco Baranda. Newsline World starts now. U.S. President Donald Trump has been invited to visit Moscow, with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov confirming the offer came directly from President Vladimir Putin. Lavrov also says the Kremlin is open to a possible face-to-face between Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, though preparations could take time. This report. The diplomatic developments follow last week's summit in Anchorage, Alaska, the first in-person meeting between Trump and Putin since 2019. The talks focus on the war in Ukraine and efforts to reset relations between Moscow and Washington. Now, Russia's foreign minister says the dialogue is moving forward. In an interview with Russia's state TV, Sergei Lavrov confirmed that Trump has an invitation to Moscow, recalling how the U.S. president described the idea as interesting. At their joint press conference last week, Trump said he could get a little heat for traveling to Moscow, but added he could see it possibly happening. Both leaders hailed the Alaska summit in positive terms, and recently, Trump met in Washington with Zelensky, European leaders, and NATO officials to discuss conditions for peace. Afterward, Trump revealed he spoke again by phone with Putin and pledged to help arrange a direct meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents, followed by a trilateral summit. But Lavrov says while Putin is open for talks with Zelensky, preparations for high-level summits take time, even as European leaders say the talks are expected to take place within the next 2 weeks. Lavrov's remarks came a day after Trump announced that preparations were already underway for a Putin-Zelensky meeting. The Kremlin has yet to confirm, saying only it is considering the possibility of high-level talks with Ukraine. For his part, Zelensky has publicly declared he is ready to meet Putin face-to-face, calling it the crucial first step toward ending war.
Ukraine with us?
Brazil's Supreme Court has ruled that foreign laws and court decisions hold no authority within the country, a move that comes after the United States imposed sanctions on one of its justices. This report from Joy Tabanao.
The United States government has imposed Magnitsky sanctions on Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandre G. Moraes, the magistrate leading the case against former President Jair Bolsonaro over an alleged coup attempt. Under the sanctions, Washington blocked Morales' assets in the country in late July. The justice previously ordered the suspension of the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter in Brazil. But in the counter-ruling, Justice Flavio Dino said foreign judicial and executive decisions have no effect inside Brazil unless processed through official international cooperation channels. The same principle was extended to recent United Kingdom court rulings against the Brazilian Mining Association in relation to the Mariana and Brumadinho dam disasters. Although the decision did not specifically mention the Magnitsky Act, legal sources indicated it effectively prevents the application of the U.S. law in Brazil. Washington has rejected this interpretation, maintaining that its sanctions remain valid. The standoff has added strain in Brazil-U.S. relations with political and trade implications. A verdict in Bolsonaro's trial is expected to be handed down between the 2nd and 12th of September. Joy Tabanao, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says relations with China are showing steady progress. He made the remarks after meeting Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in New Delhi. Fatima Nazil reports.
Prime Minister Modi received Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi at his official residence in New Delhi, where they held discussions focused on stabilizing border relations and healing diplomatic tensions that have strained ties in recent years. Modi emphasized that border stability is essential to improving relations. He also repeated India's call for a fair and reasonable settlement of the boundary issue. During his 3-day visit, Wang also held talks with Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Both sides admitted ties had gone through a difficult period but said they are prepared to move forward. Among the concrete steps agreed were better border management, resumption of direct flights, and reopening of cross-border trade. Both nations also pledged support for each other's upcoming leadership in the BRICS Forum. Wang delivered an invitation from President Xi Jinping for Modi to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Shenzhen at the end of this month. Modi accepted and said in a social media post that he looks forward to meeting President Xi there. This meeting represents the second encounter between the leaders since border clashes in 2020 that led to heightened tensions. It follows their first meeting last year at the BRICS Summit in Kazan, where they first signaled a thaw in relations. Reporting, this has been Fatima Nozil, SMNI News.
The Philippines and New Zealand are moving to strengthen their ties, focusing on trade, security, and education. Hannah Jane Sancho reports on the inaugural vice ministerial talks held in Pasay City.
Officials from the Philippines and New Zealand met in Pasay City for the first ever Vice Ministerial Foreign Ministry consultations. The talks focus on expanding market access for key agricultural products, including the Philippines' durian and New Zealand's onions, as both countries look to boost trade. Beyond commerce, discussions also covered energy cooperation, maritime security, and humanitarian assistance, following the recent strengthening of the Visiting Forces Agreement. Education was also highlighted, with both nations citing scholarship programs like Manaaki New Zealand and joint community projects in Mindanao. According to the Department of Foreign Affairs, the goal is to establish a comprehensive Philippines-New Zealand partnership by 2026, with the next round of talks scheduled in New Zealand in 2027. Officials say ongoing discussion aim to ensure a fair and open trading relationship for both sides. For God, my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SM9 News.
Up next, Vice President Sara Duterte makes a bold statement on drugs. She says drug addicts are ugly and declares that she and the entire office of the Vice President are ready for drug testing anytime. And Vice President Sara also fires back at President Marcos Jr., slamming the timing of his flood control probe and demanding lawmakers, not just contractors, be held accountable. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman diyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Several Filipino-Chinese foundations conducted relief operations for residents affected by recent flooding in Metro Manila as the Senate opens its probe into alleged flood control anomalies. Jason Rubrico files this report.
Many families in Metro Manila, especially in Pasay City, are still struggling with the effects of consecutive storms and heavy flooding.
Kasi yung iba talagang di nakapasok sa trabaho. Alam mo naman, kung talagang nandun talaga sila sa marginalized sector, naiinda pa rin nila.
As part of the immediate response, several Filipino-Chinese foundations launched a relief operation distributing 2,000 rice bags to affected residents. Groups involved include the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, the Filipino at Chino Magkaibigan Foundation, and the Angelo King Foundation. According to FFCCCII, the initiative highlights how meaningful collaboration can strengthen food security and support vulnerable families.
Our program is to help these poor people in time of calamity. Actually, during this typhoon, we generate around 10 million pesos for the calamity fund. We purchased 50,000 packs of rice of 5 kilo per pack to giving to all the affected area, including the area in the northern part of Philippines.
Alongside the relief effort, the group of Filipino-Chinese businessmen also called on the government to address irregularities in flood control projects.
Hopefully, the government can do something to for this flood control to solve the flood control problem.
On Tuesday, the Senate officially began its probe into alleged anomalies in flood control projects following President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s order for a nationwide review of major contractors. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
Vice President Sara Duterte took a swipe at President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. over his order to investigate irregularities in the country's flood control projects. VP Sara questioned the timing of the move, claiming the president is merely preparing an excuse should massive flooding hit the nation again. Jason Rubrico is back for more news.
The Senate has begun investigating key contractors behind the country's defective flood control projects. This came following the directive of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. But Vice President Sara Duterte insisted that accountability should not stop with the contractors, saying lawmakers who control the budget must also be held responsible.
Well, lahat sila dapat, no? Hindi lang yung mga contractors dahil yung mga contractors ay mga tauhan din sila ng mga members of the House of Representatives.
VP Sara again hit out at House Speaker Martin Romualdez and the Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico, accusing them of controlling and dividing the national budget. The same reason she stressed that pushed her to step down from the Department of Education.
Kung maalala ninyo, meron akong ginawa na interview noon kung bakit ako umalis sa Department of Education. Binagyat ko doon na 2 tao lang ang nagde-decide sa budget ng Pilipinas. Yun ay si Martin Romualdez at si Zaldico. At yung mga kasamahan nila o mga grupo nila, kasama din nila yon sa paghati-hati noong budget ng Pilipinas. Dahil nakita namin yon sa Department of Education.
The Vice President added that she had long reported to Marcos Jr. the meddling of lawmakers in government funds, but the President, she said, ignored her warnings. This is why she now questions the sudden decision to investigate flood control projects.
Nabanggit namin yon kay BBM na ganun ang ginawa, pero noon ay wala siyang reaction, tapos bigla ngayon meron na siyang reaction. Paniwala ko ginagawa nila yan para lang sabihin sa susunod na baha na tingnan nyo, may ginawa naman kami. Pinaghahandaan niya lang yung excuse niya para sa susunod na baha.
The investigation is expected to continue in the coming weeks as both the Senate and the public await clarity on who should ultimately be held accountable. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has declared Japan's commitment to actively engage in international discussions on Ukraine security, calling the talks extremely important for world peace. His statement follows a recent virtual summit of the U.S.-led coalition of the willing and comes ahead of another high-level meeting in Washington. This report from Diana Flores.
In Tokyo, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is voicing strong support for fresh diplomatic efforts to end the war in Ukraine. He welcomed what he called U.S. President Donald Trump's positive approach and praised European and Ukrainian leaders for the frank talks at the White House. Ishiba stressed that Japan sees the conflict not only as a regional war but as a direct challenge to global stability. He also sounded the alarm on growing military ties between Russia and North Korea, citing reports that Pyongyang is supplying ammunition and even troops to the battlefield. Ishiba warned the fallout could extend beyond Europe and threaten the Indo-Pacific as well. His comments follow the Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska and come ahead of more U.S.-hosted talks with European leaders and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Ishiba said Japan stands ready to take part, hoping the talks lead to what he called a just and lasting peace.
で日本といたしましてもこの会合には大きな関心を持って 注視をしているところでございます。で、私自身このようなトランプ大統領の積極的な取り組みということは歓迎すべきことだと思いますし、で、欧州の首脳が集まって、そしてまたウクライナと共にそういう会談が行われるということは肯定的に考えるべきものだと思っておりますが、でそこにおいて率直な議論が行われるということ、そしてウクライナに公正で永続的な平和、これが実現するというような道筋ができること、これを強く期待をいたしております。で、我が国といたしましては、これも昨日のオンライン会議で申し上げたことですが、北朝鮮の兵士によりますウクライナに対する戦闘への参加、あるいは弾薬、砲弾等の提供、このようなロシアと北朝鮮の軍事協力、この進展というものを強く懸念しているということは昨日も強調したところでございます。で、この問題も含めまして、このロシアによるウクライナ侵略、これを終結に向かわせるという上において、インド太平洋を含む世界全体の安全保障、国際秩序に禍根を残さないということが重要であって、このことには我が国としてもこのオンライン会議にアジアから日本だけが参加をしておりますので、これはただウクライナの問題ではないと、世界の平和と安全、そういうものの維持というものについて極めて重要であり、我が国としてこれから先も積極的にこの議論には参加していきたいというふうに考えておるところでございます。
Diana Flores, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Drug addicts are ugly, a strong remark from Vice President Sara Duterte, as she declared that she and the entire office of the Vice President are ready to undergo a drug test anytime. Jason Rubrico has more on this.
Vice President Sara Duterte is again pushing for a drug test in government. This comes after Senator Mig Zubiri called for mandatory random testing in the Senate, Congress, and other agencies. She says she's ready but will wait for a direct order from President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
Matagal na ako nagsasabi, sir. Matagal na ako nagsasabi na magpa-drug test na kami lahat. Inaantay ko lang talaga si BBM at yung Office of the President na magsabi na magpa-drug test na. Kahit ngayon pa, magsabi sila na magpa-drug test tayo, magpa-drug test, walang problema sa akin yun. In fact, kami din sa Office of the Vice President, handa kami na magpa-drug test lahat.
Duterte adds drug testing is crucial to make sure public officials have the sound judgment needed to lead and make decisions.
Unang-una, napakahalaga kasi ng drug test. Kasi tinatanong natin yung kapasidad ng ating mga leaders na mag-isip at magdesisyon. Kapag nagdodroga ka, altered yung state of mind mo eh. So paano natin napapanigurado na sakto yung mga desisyon or ikaw pa ba yung gumagawa ng mga desisyon? So napakahalaga talaga ng drug test kasi it goes into the competency of the person in office.
The Vice President also backed PNP Chief General Nicolas Torres' remarks that drug use not only harms the body and mind but also shows in one's physical appearance.
Malamang papangit ka talaga pag addict ka kasi 'di ba ano 'yon, hindi ka kumakain ng maayos, hindi ka natutulog ng maayos at wala nang laman yung utak at tiyan mo niyan eh kasi 'di ba ano na lang 'yan, para kang zombie, para kang tulala lagi pag nagdodroga ka. So, oo, kasi nangingiwi ka na kasi nga wala nang vitamins and nutrients yung katawan mo. Kaya totoo yan talaga. Papangit talaga yung mga addict, pangit talaga sila.
For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SM9 News.
Good news for thousands of Filipinos seeking medical care. More than 14,000 patients have already benefited from the government's new Bayad na Bil Mo program. The initiative promises zero balance billing in state-run hospitals ensuring that even the most vulnerable can live without worrying about mounting hospital costs. Creseling Catarong reports.
More than 14,000 patients from 2 Department of Health hospitals have already received assistance from Bayad na Bill Mo program just weeks after its launch. The Presidential Communications Office said the initiative is now in place at 87 DOH hospitals nationwide, covering patients admitted in basic or ward accommodations. At least 12,000 patients at the Eastern Visayas Medical Center in Tacloban City and around 2,400 patients at East Avenue Medical Center in Quezon City have had their hospital bills fully covered by the government under the program.
So ang inutos ko para ma-implementa to sustainably ay talagang may bill ang pasyente. So nakalagay dun sa bill kung magkano ang ginastos ng Department of Health, magkano ang kinontribute ng PhilHealth, magkano ang kinontribute to MyPIP, Medical Assistance for Invalid Funds. So every year, ililipat namin yung pondo na yun sa maintenance and operating expense, so pambili ng damot.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. personally visited both hospitals this week to check on the rollout of the zero balance billing policy. He also urged the public to spread awareness about the program so more patients can seek treatment without worrying about costs.
Kailangan natin pasalamatan lahat ng ating magigiting at napakasipag at napaka-dedicated na healthcare workers. That instinct of service, of dedication, they continue to show kahit walang pandemya.
Funding for Bayad na Bill Mo comes from the Medical Assistance Program for Indigent and Financially Incapacitated Patients, the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office, Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, and the DOH hospital budget on top of benefits from PhilHealth. For God and for my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Creseling Catarong, SMNI News.
Mindanao may be getting less next year, and a lawmaker questions the 2026 budget and how funds reach the region. Let's hear the Department of Budget and Management's explanation in MJ Mondejar's report.
Cagayan de Oro City Representative Rufus Rodriguez is raising concerns over the proposed 2026 national budget, saying Mindanao isn't getting its fair share. He points out that more than 26 million people live in the region, over 20% of the country's population, yet its funding has steadily declined from 2022 to next year.
Mindanao, comprising 6 regions, will only receive the measly amount percentage of 15.4. 15.4. I have here the Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department, which shows that in the past, Mindanao was at least getting, in 2022, 16.6%. Before that, during the 15th Congress, we reached 17%. Now, we're down again to only a share of percent of 15.4.
Rodriguez also questions funds held at the government central office, claiming that a large portion could add up as pork barrel for cabinet members instead of reaching the regions.
The central office gets 10%, 10.2. Why will the central office, reserve 10%? This will be the pork barrel of the cabinet members. It should be pushed already to the regions and improve the region, especially Mindanao and the Visayas.
Budget Secretary Amina Pangandaman explained that the central office covers certain projects such as Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino Program or 4Ps, Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situation or AICS, and Social Protection Programs, and DepEd school building projects.
Some projects that are foreign assisted in nature are centralized and nationwide, are lodged in the nationwide and central offices of each department. This is also true for projects like 4Ps, AICS, and other social protection program. I know that some of the school building programs and even the materials for our DepEd schools are also lodged under the central office.
Rodriguez argues it's unfair for Mindanao's budget to shrink every year. He asked the Department of Budget and Management what will happen to the region's agricultural projects if this system of the national government continues.
Mindanao is said to be the breadbasket of our country, and it thrives on agriculture. Now, if you can see here, the allocation of agriculture in Mindanao from 2025 it was 14.3, still small. But this 2026, it's smaller. It's now 12.2. Can you imagine? Instead of increasing the percentage of Mindanao in agriculture, 14.3 this year, it now becomes 12.2.
The nature of the programs and projects under the Department of Agriculture is that most of its programs and projects are actually lodged under the central office, and then we will only be able to see the recipients once they implement the project.
For Government of Philippines, MJ Mondehap, SMNI News.
A 55.7 million peso river wall project in Bulacan has President Marcos Jr. fuming after an inspection revealed no construction at all. The so-called ghost project was reportedly fully completed and paid for, but the site showed no signs of work. Marcos Jr. is now considering charges of falsification and economic sabotage, urging the public to report other questionable projects. Creseline Catarong is back for more news.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. inspected a 55.7 million pesos reinforced concrete river wall project in Barangay Piel, Baliwag, Bulacan on Wednesday. He expressed outrage after finding no sign of construction at the site, calling it a ghost project.
Wala kaming makita na kahit isang hollow block, isang ng simento, walang equipment dito. Lahat itong project na ito, ghost project. Walang ginawa na trabaho dito.
The Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, had reported the 220-meter riverbank protection project as fully completed and paid. But local officials said that the contractor initially coordinated with the barangay, even requesting community help before backing out without explanation.
Sinabi nagpatulong daw sa barangay at sabi sisimula na ito. Ngunit after a while, 220 meters o 220 meters dapat ang ilalagay dito na flood protection. Pagkatapos sinabi sa barangay na magpapatulong para ilalagay nila yung project. Tapos umatras din. Sinabi after a while hindi na matutuloy. So siguro nabayaran na, kaya tumatas na.
Marcos also revealed that the original contract could not be found, raising questions about transparency and accountability. He suspects layers of subcontracting may have made it difficult to trace responsibility. On the pending Commission on Audit review of Bulacan projects, the President confirmed that legal action is possible, including charges of falsification and economic sabotage.
Falsification na ito. Yung ganito, dahil nag-report sila na completed. Hindi, kitang-kita naman na hindi completed. So immediately that's a falsification. So that's already very big violation. And for the big ones, talagang I'm thinking very hard to pipilahan natin sila na economic sabotage. Because economic sabotage is very clearly.
Marcos encouraged the public to keep submitting reports, photos, and videos of questionable projects as investigations continue into government-funded works flagged for irregularities. For God and for my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Creseline Catarong, SMNI News.
Poland says it has no intention of sending soldiers to Ukraine. This comes as Donald Trump claimed that some European allies want to put boots on the ground in the war-torn country. Prince Tripoli for more details.
In Warsaw, Poland's government spokesperson Adam Zlapka clarified that Poland has no intention of deploying troops in Ukraine. He said claims that a group of countries were getting ready to send troops were nothing but disinformation.
Zlapka added that Warsaw supports a tough line against Russia, but only through political and security agreements that fully guarantee Ukraine's independence.
His remarks followed a major show of support for Kyiv in Washington recently. 6 European leaders from Germany, France, the UK, Italy, Finland, and the European Commission joined NATO's Secretary General in Washington, where they met with Zelensky and US President Donald Trump. To recall, Trump claimed in an interview with an American media channel that the UK, France, and Germany actually want boots on the ground in Ukraine. Trump ruled out US involvement on deploying troops on the ground, but did not rule out helping by air. He also said Ukraine would never join NATO and that it would never have any chance of reclaiming Crimea. During talks in Washington, the European leaders agreed to focus on security guarantees instead of pushing for full NATO membership. Zelensky has previously demanded accession to NATO, but Russia maintained that Ukraine should remain neutral if that is needed under any agreement. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, your citizen correspondent.
The Eurozone is running into trade trouble. New numbers show its trade surplus with the rest of the world has dropped sharply, with US tariffs and other global shocks taking their toll. According to Eurostat, the Eurozone's trade surplus fell to 7 billion euros in June. That's a steep decline of more than 66% compared to the same month last year. The rest of the European Union also took a hit, posting a trade surplus more than 60% smaller than a year ago. Reports from US media suggest American tariff hikes played a key role as EU exports to the United States hit their lowest level since 2023. But analysts point to other factors as well, from weaker global demand to higher imports and shifts in currency values. Despite the strain, there's still some bright spots, as the EU has expanded trade with Brazil, China, and other emerging economies. Still, heavy industries like machinery and chemicals remain under pressure, showing how tough the external trade environment has become. Thousands of teachers across Paraguay have launched a two-day nationwide strike demanding salary increases, better school conditions, and a bigger share of the national budget for education. More of this report from Jillian Gutierrez.
Marches filled the streets of Asuncion earlier this week as educators and union leaders rallied behind calls for the government to double education spending to 7% of GDP. The current allocation stands at just 3.4%. Protesters also raised concerns over a finance ministry proposal that would set the retirement age for teachers at 62. A plan unions argue would hurt the profession.
Estamos en la calle justamente en defensa de un mayor presupuesto, una mayor inversión para el sector educativo, teniendo en cuenta que lo ideal sería un 7% del PIB y hoy Paraguay está invirtiendo un 3,4% nada más en educación.
Teachers further pointed to overcrowded classrooms, lack of internet access, and poor sanitation facilities as urgent issues needing attention. The strike is expected to last through Tuesday, with unions warning they could extend the action if their demands are ignored in the 2026 education budget. For now, Paraguay's educators say they'll remain firm on the streets until the government responds to their call for meaningful investment in the country's schools. Jillian Gutierrez, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
A schoolgirl from Glasgow has turned a simple idea into global recognition. Her solar-powered invention to help the homeless has placed her among Time magazine's first ever Girl of the Year. More of this story from Justin Nazario.
A 13-year-old Scottish schoolgirl is proving that big ideas can spark real change. Rebecca Young of Kelvinside Academy has been named one of Time magazine's first ever Girls of the Year, honored for her innovative solar-powered heated blanket designed to help people experiencing homelessness. Rebecca first captured worldwide attention at just 11 years old when she triumphed over more than 70,000 UK entrants in the primary engineer competition. Her winning creation, a heated blanket built into a backpack and powered by solar panels, was praised not only for its ingenuity but for its potential to provide comfort and dignity to rough sleepers. Her design quickly gained momentum winning silver at the prestigious Mock Robert Awards and earning a commendation award by Public Vote. Now, Rebecca's impact has gone global. Time magazine's inaugural list celebrates 10 extraordinary young achievers worldwide, and Rebecca stands among them. To mark the honor, the Lego Group created a minifigure in her likeness, featured on a special edition Time cover, part of the company's She Built That campaign, designed to inspire girls everywhere to see themselves as innovators and builders. Despite the recognition, Rebecca's ambitions stretch beyond engineering. While her invention is already making a tangible difference, her story serves as proof that determination, creativity, and compassion can change lives no matter your age. From the classroom to the world stage, Rebecca Young is building more than just inventions. She's building hope. This is Justina Zario, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the sun. You cannot defeat darkness by darkness, evil by evil, and hate by hate. You can only defeat darkness by light, evil by good, and hate by love. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.